Welcome to another Wichita Toy Train Club Lionel product review. I'm Zachariah. Behind the camera we have Chris, and today we're going to take a look at the Lionel SD40 Santa Fe number 1518. A little bit of history about the SD40-2. They were produced from 1972 until 1984 for U.S. railroads. It is a 3,000 horsepower diesel electric locomotive built by EMD. The SD40-2 was designed to compete against GE's U30C and the Alco Century 630. Although higher horsepower locomotives were built even by EMD, the SD40 and SD40-2 became an industry standard for years to come. Peak production for these locomotives were in the mid-1970s, and about 1980, when the oil crisis hit, production started to slow down, and that ultimately ended with the last production for them in 1984. So some of the basic features on Lionel's model of the SD40-2 would be Lionel's legacy control system, so we can run it with legacy, TMCC, or with just conventionally with just a transformer and some track. The locomotive offers two powerful, maintenance-free flywheel motors, and the minimum curve on the locomotive is actually 031. The manual actually says it can get around 031 with most cars. You'd have to actually test that to be 100% sure. The catalog said 54, so there's kind of an iffy deal there. The manual did also say that there are some cars that will only go, they can't get around unless it was 054, so there's some contradictions there. So the best bet would be to go with 054, but it might be able to get a little bit tighter. The locomotive also has obviously a fan-driven smoke unit out the stack, and we have a bunch of LED lights, including illuminated number boards and marker lights, along with the headlight. And the locomotive also this is the start of Lionel's road specific details. So we have some of the things that they are focused on with those would be the pilot, any changings in the pilot, the horn placement, where the bell is, whether it's electronic or if it's an old regular bell, battery box covers, dynamic brakes. This particular model also has a little beacon light, so that is on there, and it also has the dynamic pilots, and we'll show you that here in a little bit. All right, now let's go in for a closer look. All right, now we're looking at the front of the locomotive. Right up front here, we have one of our two electric couplers, big O-scale electric coupler. This can be fired from our legacy or TMCC remote. On the front of our pilot here, we have a number of air hoses and MU hoses. Some other molded in details on the front of the pilot. Moving up, we have our little separately applied coupler cut bar. Right here, we have this little plastic deck that flips down for multiple unit consists, and a little metal chain that runs in between there. All these handrails look really nice, are a nice separately applied and painted a nice looking yellow. Go with the war bonnet paint scheme, the red, yellow and blue paint scheme going on here. Over here on the side of our pilot, we have our nice steps. There is no safety tread or holes or anything on the steps. They're just a solid plastic with a yellow stripe where the step is. Looks really nice. On the top here, we have a nice safety tread on all of our decking. Same with up here. Little grab iron type looking step stool area. Molded in details on the front of our nose. We have our operating marker lights on either side. A little grab iron there. Nice crisp Santa Fe on the front of the nose. Back here we have some more separately applied grab irons. Up top here we have a molded in sand fill cap. We got our little windshield wipers, and all of our cab windows, of course, I've got that plastic insert in them. Moving up, we have our top headlight. We have two illuminated number boards on either side of it. Up top here we have our horn. One other thing is, like I said earlier, our front pilot is that dynamic pilot, so the pilot is completely independent of the truck. Now that way, if we go around a tighter curve, that way our coupler doesn't bind up when it moves. Our pilot's able to move this way or that way, whichever way it needs to, and that gives the pilot a little bit of extra room, and also keeps that gigantic gap from in between the pilot and the frame mount if we would have normally had our pilot connected to our truck. Okay, now we're looking at the side of our cab here. Down low here we have our nice looking truck side frame, our 3-axle truck side frame. Not a whole lot going there on that side frame, but it still looks really nice. It's nothing crazy or anything, but again, looks nice. Right here we have our legible EMD builder's plate. We have some toolboxes and whatnot over here underneath our cab. We got a nice crisp 5018. That 8 looks kind of really weird with that little nub or whatnot. I don't know what it is or why it's there or what, but it like I said, it just looks really kind of weird. Moving up, we can see we have our engineer figure right there inside the cab. Our windows do not open or anything. We have us a little sunshade type deal there. And over here towards our fuel tank, we have a little fuel label, our shut-off switch, and a couple other little hand-painted red details. Okay, now we're looking at just the side of the locomotive here. Again, here's our nice big fuel tank. We've got a little air tank that sits on top of it. The tank and this top deck here is all die-cast metal. Gives the engine a nice weight to it. We have our handrail that goes down the side of the locomotive. Looks really nice. Back here towards our cab, we can see we have our rear door back here with a little windshield wiper. This door does not open, it's molded into the side of the cab. And we have, of course, all our doors and whatnot down the side of the locomotive with our nice crisp Santa Fe. Those are all those doors are molded in and whatnot. We have some grates back here, some nice looking grates up here off the radiator, and some more vents and whatnot up over here. And as we can see, we also got 3 big warning labels on the side of the locomotive, and we got some more labeling right here in white. Okay, now looking on the rear of the locomotive, right up here we have our rear backup light. There's another little sand fill cap up here. Down the side here we have a bunch of separately applied grab irons, another one right here. Back here we have 2 illuminated number boards, and here's another little grab iron. Our back pilot looks just exactly the same as our front. Bunch of MU hoses, our little chain, and our little plastic deck that we can put down for multiple unit consists. And our rear big O-gauge electrocoupler. Now this pilot is again the same way. It is that dynamic, it's got that dynamic action to it. So as we're going around curves, if it needs to, so that coupler doesn't bind up or anything, it will extend out and give us a little bit more length. Looking up front here, we have our horn, that nice looking horn up front here, and our little beacon light over here off to the side, and these other boxes and so forth. And this is probably where a lot of our road specific detail comes into play, with the placement of the horn, whether or not we got that beacon light, and all these other boxes, whether they're associated with our dynamic braking, or the antenna, or the GPS for the locomotive. Moving back, we have a bunch of lift rings on the top of our locomotive. It goes all the way back, even back here, and a little grab iron back there. Up top here, again, molded in details, some stay bolts and whatnot, and around our exhaust vent. Right here is our exhaust, and as usual, to add smoke fluid, we just pour it directly down the stack here. Moving back, again, there's those lift rings I was talking about. We have our radiator fans. We got 5 of those, 2 here and 3 back here. All of these have separately applied fan blades, so they don't move, they're not motorized or anything, but they are separately applied in there, so they're loose. So if you kind of blew in there, they'd spin. It's not like they're molded in or anything. And we got another little detail going on back here. Alright, now we've moved back to these back 3 radiator fans. If I go ahead and this back panel lifts up just like that, we can see we have the top of one of our flywheels for the rear motor, and we have one of our all of our switches for the locomotive. So right up front here we have our run program switch, our Odyssey 2 speed control on-off switch, and our smoke on-off switch. And right here, barely can see it, we have our master volume pod for the locomotive. Back here we have our space for the optional 9-volt battery. Kind of noticed a lot of the steam engines actually don't offer that anymore, so I don't know if that's just they've kind of left that standard with the diesels, or what the difference on that is. A lot of people say if you run it with Legacy, usually you can get away without that 9-volt battery. Most of the time you just really want it if you're running it conventional. Alright, now we got the locomotive flipped over, and as we can see, we got 2 pickup rollers on each truck. So we got 4 center rail pickup rollers, and as we can also see, only 2 axles of each truck are powered, so that outside axle is just a dummy axle, there's nothing there. The inside axle of each truck has 2 traction tires on it, so we got 4 traction tires total. Right here in the center, we have our speaker for the sound system. And right there next to the speaker, we have our little IR sensor for the LCS center track. Now, just as with any other engine or set that you get out of the box, it's always a good idea to put a little bit of oil on. Oil is your friend. So just a little bit where we put where our metal axle goes through the frame on our dummy axle there, and the same thing back here with our powered axles, where that metal axle goes through our metal frame. Always a good idea to put that little bit of oil on there. Keeps your engine running for a nice long life. Always keep an eye on these open gears. They start to look dry. A little bit of grease never hurts. Just about anything works. You find some good silicone grease, that'd probably grease those up pretty well. And always make sure we put a little bit of oil on our center rail pickup rollers. That is what will definitely start squeaking first without any oil. We'll do that same thing back here on our rear truck. Also, right here is our little mechanical bell for the, so we got a little bell detail down there. Okay, zoomed in over here on our rear truck. Went ahead and turned it 90 degrees. You can do this on your Legacy diesels, and that is how you can go ahead and remove the truck. You just turn it 90, and that allows you to pull it off with that line drive coupling Lionel uses. And I wanted to mention one thing with our Kinemic pilot back here. So as we can see, this is the mechanism you can see from the back, and that's how that works. It has a little V that hides up underneath there. These 2 little bitty screws right here that kind of hold this plate down to keep these the wires for the electrocoupler out of the way. Those 2 screws were just barely long enough that were hindering the performance of this Kinemic pilot. So I had to back those out a little bit to keep this pilot from catching on it. The little metal piece back there, it just kept hitting those screws, and it went. All it would do was about that right there. It's about all it used to be able to do. So I don't know if that's a common problem. These 2 screws just happen to be a little too long. If whoever was putting this together at the factory grabbed the wrong screws, there's just no telling. But just thought I'd point that out. And back here, we can see we have our Legacy serial number. This is on a lot of the newer locomotives. We have a Legacy serial number on the over here on the side of the fuel tank. Okay, we got power to the track, and we can see that just the number boards illuminate with as soon as we add track power. Nothing else is on yet, so let's go ahead and fire it up and listen to some of the sounds.
This is the yard office. Do you read me? I read you. Over. We should have you rolling in just a moment. Watch your signals. Over. Yes, sir. We'll fire her up. Out.
Okay, here's the horn.
dispatcher. Am I cleared to the outbound? Over. Roger that. You are clear through my limits. Over. Acknowledged. I've got clear boards. Out. This is the yard office. Need to hold you. Over. Roger. Standing by. Out.
Here's the bell. And here's our fuel effect.
Fill her up! My fuel's full. Over. Roger that.
And because this is a legacy diesel, we have 8 different settings for our RPM sounds. So we're down here at idle. Go ahead and bring her on up. Okay, now we got her on the roof. We'll bring her back down. Alright, now we're back down here at idle. Okay, we've listened to all the sounds. Real quick though, if I go ahead and put this thing in reverse. There we go. We can see our headlight turns off and our 2 marker lights up front turn on. And the same thing kind of happens up around back. Our rear backup lights on and our 2 marker lights back there turn off. Go ahead and go back forward. And our headlight comes back on back there. Our 2 marker lights are on now at the rear. Let's go ahead and put it in sequence control. We'll go ahead and take it for a spin around the layout.
Tower, we're on the move. Over. Roger that. Have a safe run. Out.
right, now we've taken the locomotive for a spin around the layout. We can see it sounds and runs great. I think that smoking it works really well on this locomotive. Really a fan of that road-specific details. Yeah, I mean, even though I'm not much of a diesel-electric guy, I think that's a good direction for Lionel to be headed. Any other thoughts, Chris?
I agree with you a lot on the detail. I'm really impressed by it. The only downfall, in my opinion, on this is the flashing beacon at the top. I think could either use a amber LED because it really kind of flashes white, but it's still yellow, but it flashes a lot of white compared to the amount of yellow.
Okay. All right. Yeah, and then the only other deal is that Kinamic Pilot. I don't know what the deal was with that those long screws keeping that rear end from working. Like I said, just it might be a small anomaly, but if you ever run into that, that might be a place to check. This locomotive retails for $650. If you go through any good Lionel dealer, you probably get a pretty decent discount on that retail price. Keep in mind, I'm going to put the link to the Lionel's website on this locomotive down in the description. If you have any other ideas, or check out the product number so you can see if your dealer has it, be sure to check down in the description. This concludes our review of the Lionel Legacy Santa Fe SD40-2 number 5018. Be sure to like us on Facebook so you get all the notifications on our open hours here in Wichita, Kansas, and any train shows that we have coming up. Also, be sure to hit that subscribe button here on YouTube. That way you get all the notifications when we release more product reviews and running train videos. Thanks for watching. Alright, now we got power to the track, and we can see that as soon as you get power, just the number boards illuminate, nothing else. So let's go ahead and fire it off and listen to some of the sounds. Having issues.